to have that, we need the funding to go with it so that we can employ the staff that go with it.
And Niamh, do you think that most NEU members would support an abolitionist position on exclusions? Daniel there has said that they would appreciate that there is at times a need for an exclusion. Do you agree?
Well, I mean, I disagree with something that you said earlier. You said that the NEU had passed, or that no exclusions had spoken at our conference. I think it's really clear to say that we passed a motion that included the phrase "no more exclusions," and there was a good debate of delegates at conference about what that actually meant and what it means for our members. Now, if a member of the NEU or any member of staff in a school or college is assaulted by a student, or there is a serious issue of behaviour, and that child is found, either through the criminal justice system, found guilty of that offence, or there is, we know that a teacher has been harmed, then we absolutely have to support our members to ensure that they are not put in a position where they should be teaching that child again if they don't wish to. I think that is really important, that we are supporting our members in that. But I think what we find is that when you speak to teachers, is what they are most concerned about is that if a young person commits an offence or a behaviour is so destructive that they are not able to be in their classroom, that there is a suitable classroom for them somewhere. And what we see in the profession, and we know that children with special educational need and disability are more likely to be excluded from mainstream schools and less likely to then get a place. And that also happens temporarily when Ofsted come to call, and a school leader sometimes makes a decision to say to a child, don't come in today, or you might want to go off somewhere else for the day. And we have to make sure that our education system is inclusive for everybody, but that members of staff feel supported and are absolutely supported in their behaviour management policies.
So Niamh, when No More Exclusions said that the NEU had passed their motion on a moratorium on exclusions, they weren't telling the truth. Is that right?
Well, people that are members of the NEU that are also members of No Exclusions may have had a hand in writing a motion that was put to our national conference, but it is the NEU members that debated that motion and implemented the motion and discussed what it meant for them. So, there are two separate things. This is a member-led union. It is the NEU members that decide what our policy is, not external organisations.
Okay, thank you. Daniel, do you share Niamh's stance on exclusions and her statement that she made?
Which statement am I to endorse, Tom?
Is there anything you would disagree with what Niamh has said?
Well, I think Niamh's broadly right. The only thing I would also add is, if we want to reduce exclusion, we really do need to look at curriculum also. You are more likely to be excluded if you're a Black Caribbean boy, if you are a Roma, Gypsy Roma traveller in particular. And I think, we need to look at curriculum as well and ensure that, children in their rich diversity can see themselves reflected in our schools. So it can go down to we need to improve on things like that as well. I grew up never seeing black people really reflected in school, in the school literature that I had access to. I hope that is starting to change now, but there's so much more to do.
I should point out that if we look at non-exclusion rates, of course, that if you are white British, there's a 99.95% chance that you are not going to be excluded. If you're from a Black Caribbean background, there's a 99.92% chance that you're not going to be excluded. If you're from a Gypsy and Roma background, there's a 99.82% chance. When we flip it in that, so I appreciate we can look at it the other way and that we can look at the disparities, but when we look at it the other way, it does seem as if actually that we're actually talking about very small numbers of pupils in total. When you look at
that's right.
when you look at the actual numbers of pupils, so the most recent figures that I've got in front of me, that 70 Black Caribbean students were permanently excluded, compared to 43 from any other Black background. And we're looking at these percentages, and actually, are the numbers that we're talking about statistically valid enough to say that there are huge racial disparities in our education system?
Well, Tom, that is broadly right. It is right. Most children are not excluded from schools. There is a huge issue around off-rolling and children just disappearing from school roles. But you're right. Broadly, most children remain in the school that they are in. That does not mean that we should not be looking at the disparities, whether it's race or any other issue. As I actually believe, race is an issue in regards to exclusions. Particularly if you're looking at Black Caribbean boys and Gypsy Roma traveller. But the fundamental thing here is you are more likely to be poor if you're in those groups. I think class is the most important issue when it comes to exclusion. Race intersects with that, and so does it if you're got SEND. As I say again, you are more than twice. You're twice as likely to be